Okay, we're going to have a look at now at assigning activities rather than documents as kind of resources and so on. So I'm going to go into the LMS again, and I'm going to choose Learning Objects. And this time when I go up to Create a Learning Object, I'm going to actually choose the one called Activity. Now the difference you can see straight away, you've got different things to fill in, and it's telling me here to build my activity is going to take 3 steps. So I'm going to go through this slowly. First step, I'm going to choose ICT Junior. I'm going to do this one, I think, for Year 8, and I'm going to make this part of cyber safety. Now I'm going to do it myself, so it's self-sourced. It is in the central repository, so I can allocate it to other classes or assign it to other classes later. And I'm going to call this one Buddy Questions. You can see it popping up already because I just had a practice to make sure this would work properly. The next thing that I want to do is I need to decide a few things here where I've got these yes no radio buttons. Now any of these times when you see the little question mark, you can hover over and it tells you what this actually means. So we're not going to be doing anything that's an online test that's automatically marked, and when it says assessing this activity, it means is it going to be assessed as part of something within TAS. So that's the actual explanation, but we're not going to be using, or I'm not going to be using for this example, any webbook objectives because we haven't set any up yet, and I'm not going to put my own criteria into this system, although it is possible to do that. You can decide to make your own criteria and you can type them in, and that will then produce some boxes where results can be put in and the students can see those, and so can the parents, and we might look at that one later, but for now we're going to keep that as no. But I am going to ask the students to submit a file back, so the work I'm going to ask them to do is going to require them basically clicking and uploading a file back to me. Now rather than type everything out a second time, I'm going to actually take what I had the first time round. I'll show you up here. I've got some text that I've already written in a Word file. There's my example. I'm just going to grab all of that, Control C to copy it, and I'm going to paste that into the box provided down here. And exactly as we did with some of the other bits and pieces, if we wanted to actually change this and make it a bit bigger or a bit smaller or whatever to make it easier to see, we can edit that within this various options toolbar. I'm going to click next. This has now moved me on to step 2. Now this one is basically saying to me, do I want to provide the students with an additional resource? So it might be that I've got a Word file or a PDF or something I want to give them to help them do this activity, in which case what I would do is I would actually select it from the central repository. I'm not going to do that now, so I'm not going to select a resource. I'm just going to hit save, and that's going to move me to the 3rd step. Now what I need to do now is I need to actually assign it. Now when I assign it to a class now, I'm going to get something slightly different, and you'll see in a moment. So it's recognized my activity here. It knows that I've used an activity rather than a document, and I'm going to do a class assign. So as part of this, when it asks me about doing a class assign, is this window which is different. So with activities I can decide when they're made available, when they have to be submitted, and so on. So we'll go through this a little bit slowly. Again, you've got the question marks here next to you if you need them to help. So if we start with the preview date, the preview date is basically the date at which time the students would be able to actually see anything to do with it, and the start date is when they can start working on it. Now I'm going to make those exactly the same time, and I'm just going to decide for now, for this example, I'm going to jump a week ahead, and I'm going to make both these for Monday the 26th, and I'm going to make them start at 9 o'clock in the morning, so that's when they become available. Okay, now the next thing it says, do I need a draft? So if you wanted the students to be able to produce a draft, then you can tick this box, and that allows you then to set a date that the draft is due, and that is different to the final copy, which is the due date here. So if you go for draft, you'll actually end up with them sending you 2 different documents, and TAS will know the difference between the 2 documents when you look at them on your teacher dashboard. But we'll stick with the due date for now, and I'm just going to give them a week to do this, so I'll make it Friday the 30th, and 3 o'clock in the afternoon is fine. Now this last button, delay results. Delay results is to do with whether you've set up criteria where you actually put the grades in yourself. So when the grades go in, If you delay the results, it means it doesn't show anybody the results until they've all been completed. If you don't tick this but you have results showing, it means that as you put the results in, so as a student submits something to you and you mark it, when you put those in, the grades will be available then, or the marks will be available in Student Cafe and probably in Parent Lounge, unless you take this tick off Parent Lounge so the parents don't see it in theirs as well. So I'm not going to bother with delay results. I'm going to leave it as the start date and the finish date, and I'm going to click next. Okay, the last thing to do is to assign it. So at the moment, this is my classes. I'm just going to assign it to 8H at the moment. I don't need to assign it to all of the Year 8 classes, but if I wanted to, then I obviously would choose from all classes, and I would find all the Year 8 groups that are doing this project. I'm going to hit next, and now what it's doing is basically saying who's responsible. Now if I'd chosen more than one group, they would all be listed underneath here, and next to each one I can decide which teacher is responsible. So if you're a head of department doing this, you can decide which teacher is going to be responsible for which group. Now what that tells TAS is when the students upload their work, it knows who to upload it to. So at the moment now, because I'm the only one there, my name is the one that's selected. When the students in 8H upload this work, it will automatically come to me. I'm going to hit save again, and now it's telling me, hopefully, that that's my activity, that's the description of it, and it's been allocated to this particular group, and it's due at this date. And if I wanted to go and check over here on the left hand pane, this is what an activity icon looks like. So you've got these funny little circles. Okay, that's my buddy questions. Now in exactly the same way, if I wanted to reassign it, I can go back to class assign. If I want to delete it, I can take it away from here. If I want to remove it completely, I delete it from the repository by clicking this button after I've unassigned it. So in many respects it works the same as any other resource, apart from you've got this option of having dates, and if you need to, you can have it giving you feedback in terms of criteria that you can set up yourself. After we've set our activity up, we can go back into our own classes list and we can see something to do with that. So I'm going to go back into my Year 8 now, and you'll see now at the bottom I've got this activity, and there's the buddy questions that I've just set up. It's telling me there what the due date is, when the start date is, the yes telling me that parents can see it in Parent Lounge, and so on. What I need to be able to do then is I can see straight away how many have been completed. So at the moment there's 0 out of 16, and so on. I can click on the actual buddy questions and it opens up and it shows me all of the individual students. Now as they work through and they start filling in and uploading their work and so on, things start to fill in this grid, and what I can do is I can click on the assess and I can actually get the students' work up. So at the moment, obviously this date hasn't even been arrived yet, so she hasn't uploaded any files for me, but if she had, I would be able to choose the files from here in order to be able to assess them. This is where, if we had set up criteria for assessment, they would be showing here, so we could actually add those in. We can still add comments into these sections. So if I wanted to add a comment to the student, this basically is something that they can see. So this could be the feedback that I give them on their work, how well they've done, what they need to do to improve, and so on. The teacher comment is only available to teachers. So whatever I type into this box here, the student won't see, the parents won't see. But that could be really useful for things like parent-teacher meetings, where you want to bring up and you can see the feedback you said to the student, and you can have notes for yourself to maybe explain in a bit more detail any issues or anything that was good that was going on there that you might want to discuss. I haven't filled anything, so I'll save that comment. I can go back out of here now, back to the original grid. Now if I wanted to actually download all of the student files in one go, this button here, which at the moment has 0 files ready, if they'd all submitted their work, or if a number of them had submitted their work, I could literally click on this download finals and it would send me all of their documents in one place. So it will basically just open up a window and ask me, where do I want to save these things? Then I can have them on my own computer, I can open them up and go through them. So this is a good way for them to submit their work to you. The last thing on this to point out is some of the extra buttons along the top here and what they might be useful for. The notify button will basically allow you to send things like emails to parents. Unassign, you might want to unassign some students from doing this task for some reason. Maybe they don't have to do it because they've been away on holiday or something like that. Change dates allows you to go back into the date box in the first place so that you can change maybe when the submission date's due or something, if something happens to alter that. And this one, group extension, allows you to grant extensions to certain students. At the start of this video I did mention that it was possible to have something that was assessed, and we chose initially not to have an assessed activity. But if I'm going to go back and edit this document now, this activity, to show you the difference, so rather than start a new one from the beginning, I'm going to edit the one I've already got. So I'm going to open this one up. I'm back into this same start off box of the first step of the builder, but this time where it says will you be assessing the activity, I'm going to tick yes. So I put my little yes on there. I'm going to hit next to move on. I'm still not going to bother attaching a resource because I don't need one, but again, if you wanted to attach a PDF or a Word file or something, you could. I'm just going to choose next. This time you'll see I've got a different screen coming up, so it's given me a couple of options. Do I want to use webbook objectives? Well, we haven't got any of those set up yet, I don't think. Or am I going to use my own? So I'm going to use my own, which they're referring to as standalone. I decide how many assessment criteria I want, so I'm just going to choose 2 for now. And then I get to choose what type. So for these ones I can have any of these different things, grades, numeric scales and so on. I'm just going to go for comment and scroll up here, and I've got my 2 criteria set up there because I said I wanted 2. I'm just going to say knowledge and understanding, I think, and maybe I'll have presentation quality. So those are my 2 things that I'm going to be commenting back on for all of the students. And then the last bit here, the final grading, I can actually still give a grade if I want, so I might give them an A+ to an E- grade as the final part of this. You can see here now, do I want to do anything else? Really all I want to do is to save this activity and continue on, so I'm going to save that back to where it was. And now again, okay, so the system has refreshed now. I'm back in. If I just go back to the beginning, this is my Year 8 class. If I go into it, there's the activity. Click on the activity. Again, I get my list of students up. This all pretty much looks the same. If I click on assess, difference is now that they still haven't submitted any work. But if I go down to the bottom now, I've now got these criteria for knowledge and understanding, which I can type into. And I've got the final grade which I can choose from on the drop down list. I've still got my comment for the student, still got my teacher comment. So all of these things, once they're filled in, will be available to the students apart from the teacher comment, and also to the parents if we've had the tick put onto Parent Lounge. And that's basically how activities work.